While the Prime Minister has promised more tax relief to help families, a council tax hike is unavoidable as an increasing number of local authorities face bankruptcy right across the country.
Well, a deadline expired last night for Birmingham City Council to set out a credible plan to address their £300 million budget gap over the next 2 years. Let's cross now to...
Why were we showing pictures of Ed Davey for?
I'm not sure.
Anyway.
I wondered why you were pausing.
OK. He's out in his van.
I'll tell you what, we can speak now to our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, I've got an idea. First thing they could do is switch off their lights whilst they're on all night long. Why is that lit up like a Christmas tree at vast expense when they're bankrupt?
Good point.
It's annoying me.
Well, that is, of course, every bit of expenditure is under scrutiny, isn't it, here at Birmingham City Council? Of course, the commissioners have been in here since October, overviewing the council as it looks to make those savings and those cuts. Now, it's back in December, wasn't it, that the council said they'd found around £177 million worth of savings over the course of 2 years. But the commissioners, which were sent in by Michael Gove, have said back then that by yesterday, when that deadline expired, they needed to have found £300 million. And so today we wait very much with bated breath as to whether they have found that money. But the fact is, cuts are on the way, and the selling off of assets is also on the way. We already know from plans revealed in the documents last month that around £57 million is expected to be withdrawn from the Children and Families Department. The next biggest saving so far planned comes from the highways and bins area, around £29 million worth of cuts from there, and that's very much one of those more obvious signs of the bankruptcy of this council and the stacking up maybe of bin bags on high streets and in residential areas, as well as those, of course, the statutory services. They can't be taken away completely, but the frequency is one of the things this council can look at to try and save money. But it's not just Birmingham that are very much in this same position. Of course, we take a look at the bankrupt councils across the country. We've got the likes of Hackney, we've got Hillingdon, Northamptonshire, Slough, Thurrock, and moving further up north, Nottingham, one of the most recent ones as well, to of course declare their own bankruptcy. And where this council goes from here and what they decide to do might also include raising council tax. Of course, that is one of the main ways that other councils in the past have achieved some raising of funds to try and offset their deficits. And of course, we knew last month that the council were going to apply to the Department of Levelling Up to try and raise that above the legal limit of 5%, possibly to 10 or 15%. And I've been speaking to people on the streets of Birmingham to get their reaction to that.
It's disgraceful, really, isn't it, if you listen to it? And all the work they've done on Birmingham, and still haven't finished off half the projects, which they should have finished off a long time ago.
If they can't make it run as a business, then they need to be looking to the government for assistance in running themselves as a business.
I mean, I'd certainly be worried about raising council tax. I'd be less worried if I could see a proper plan of how it's going to be spent and what we're going to get as a benefit from that, rather than it just bailing out the council.
Just do not see why the existing council taxpayers should be asked to pay to pick up the tab for something that is not their fault.
Well, I agree with the 5%. I think it's any higher, people are going to struggle. They've got to be a bit fair to those who can't afford it, really.
The first signs of the bins not to be emptied, then the rodents around, It's a shame to see it, it really is.
Yeah, so around a 10% increase would mean around £195 extra a year on a Band D property in the city. And at a time when many people are already struggling with their own bills, any extra cost, of course, is going to be bad news for them. And we'll bring you the latest here from Birmingham throughout the day.
Just get them to switch their lights out, Jack.
Yeah,
that's what we've...
to turn them all off. You could leave the porch on, at least so it looks at somebody's home. But why every single window? I'd love to know what their electricity bill is. Cost of
it's anything like their other bills. It's pretty drastic, isn't it?
I think that's really outrageous.